Well, good evening. My name is Dennis Stedman, and welcome to the final ad hoc property committee meeting of 2023. It's the Patterson Farm Master Plan project, and it'll also be the final meeting of the assignment for this committee, which is to develop a master plan for Patterson Farm. So welcome. We have a quorum this evening, and I suggest let me put up the agenda and we will move right into that. Can everyone see the agenda?
Yep.
Very good. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I'd like to turn it over to our secretary, Beth Savini, to approve the minutes from November meeting.
Yes, the minutes of November 9th were circulated to the committee. Were there any edits or changes required? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion for adoption.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Ron. Seconded.
Second.
Thank you, Joe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. The
Very
minutes are
good.
adopted.
Thank you very much, Beth. We expect this to be a very short meeting this evening. The next item is the discussion and approval of the final Patterson Farm Master Plan report. We presented the Patterson Farm Master Plan to the Board of Supervisors on November 1st. In that meeting, 3 motions were made, and in essence, the plan was approved, and the stage 1 priorities of that plan were funding were also approved. The committee has been working with Seller Drury since then in refining, correcting, organizing the final master plan document that we'll all receive a copy of, including obviously the Board of Supervisors and the township, and it'll be available to the public. I have been through that report. I know the committee has been through that report. It was just circulated with the last round of revisions. That version was circulated again only today. So I expect there are some edits and comments on the report at this stage. So I'd open it up to the committee for any comment, suggestions, corrections, etc. to that report that we should discuss. Bet?
I just want to put out, because I've asked several times for it to be corrected. AOI is not the arts organization of Yardley, it's the artists of Yardley, but we go by AOI Art Center. And the second thing is on page 93, which is the floor plans for the Janney house. They continue to put a room above the kitchen. There's no room above the kitchen. So the rendering is incorrect.
And Joe Jurinsky from Southern Drury is with us this evening. So Joe, you can comment and on anything you want, but I presume you're going to capture this last round of edits.
Yes. So to answer that question, me and Doug have discussed that several times now. So there has to be an attic space above there, correct? I mean, like, it is a sloped roof, so it might be. It is not a sloped roof.
It is not a sloped roof. Go back to your imaging. You want me to put up a picture? I will.
Sure. I guess we can look at a picture if you want to.
Sure. Dennis, I think you need to unshare your screen for me.
I do. Go for it.
Let me go find it, and then I'll come back.
Okay. Yeah, well, we're looking at that. Let's. Well, Bet is looking for that because my memory is consistent with yours, Bet, and yours is more current to mine. That's just a flat roof. But
Okay, I might be wrong. Yeah,
It's,
totally.
I'll show you.
other comments on the report. We have modified the executive summaries and tried to put it in a kind of a priority order.
Mhm.
I have to say it's over 400 pages, a lot of appendices with drawings, dimensions, etc. So it's a very comprehensive study. Fred, I think you have some typo kind of corrections, or do you have comments or changes to the report beyond typos that which we can separately forward to Seller Drury?
No, I think in general, it's very extensive. I think it captures a lot of what we went through over the last year with Siler Dewey, and also prior to that in our own in in-depth look at this property. So, I think there's a lot of information there that will be key to going forward and guiding the township for what develops there at Patterson Farm. As just again, as far as detailed things like grammar and typos, that's up to them. That's I don't think we're in the process of doing their QA, QC. So.
Okay.
I have a picture. You want me to put it up?
Sure, yeah.
Can you see it? No, go back. So this is the kitchen over here. And it has a sloped roof,
Yeah.
sloping east.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
This does not come all the way out to this wall. This is the porch.
Okay. Well, we can certainly fix that for you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
nice picture. Any other comments on the master plan in general or specific? Joe, Ron,
So I did want to comment on one thing that I did change. So other than the biggest change being that we added the extra chapter, which is simply the recommendations. The other thing that I found most notable about the changes was probably getting rid of the estate of the Pattersons. So
Right.
that is obviously no longer in there, and that should be legally and technically correct, just to make that very clear. But
It
other
is.
than that, I think most of the changes were simple grammatical and spelling, and we're in pretty good shape.
Okay. Joe, Ron, any comments?
Nope.
No. If I could, I would like to make a motion that the Seller Drury Patterson Farm Master Plan report be approved as presented, subject to perhaps some last editing of typo grammar type of things that may occur after tonight's meeting, that be approved by this committee to be forwarded on to the Board of Supervisors as the final master plan report. Do I have a motion?
Dennis, just as a point of order, would that include the substitution of the picture or the clarification of the bump out or lack of bump out on the picture?
You're right, including that correction that Beth just pointed out. Those corrections pointed out here this evening. Yes.
Dennis, I'd like to make a motion that the master plan as presented this evening with the corrections that we discussed during the meeting be approved and forwarded on to the Board of Supervisors.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This, that assignment of the ad hoc property committee is completed. Congratulations. And in particular to those who maybe about a year ago thought that it wasn't actually possible and it would never end. We there was always faith that we could complete that. So I really appreciate this team's effort and the effort we had from the community, which was tremendous. I mean, we had over 200 people show up, to various meetings, and contribute and really become engaged. And I thought, in addition to providing a guiding strategic document to the township for this property, one of the benefits of this process was certainly that I think the Lower Makefield Township community is more informed, is more aware, and is ready, willing, and able to become more engaged with this property, which I think is an important step forward. So, well done to you all. With that, I'd like to move to the second agenda item. I can bring that back up, which with this assignment completed, I think it's appropriate we talk about the role of the ad hoc property committee. And based on conversations that I've had with I know that this is nothing to be resolved tonight, but I think it's something to be kind of discussed and to contemplate. Is one of the recommendations was that the township form a implementation committee for the Patterson Farm master plan. We know that it calls for the site being managed by a nonprofit but that's not in place today. And as the stage one activities are engaged, which are almost exclusively envisioned to be exclusively township funded kinds of infrastructure initiatives, it's appropriate that there be a resident committee to work with the township to be sure that the voice of the community remains engaged in this and provides kind of a baton pass to the nonprofit. The implementation committee is envisioned to work with the township in many ways, like this master planning process has been, to help be sure the voice of the community is a part of it, and to help select that nonprofit that would manage the property and really transition that. The committee, I would expect, could be sunsetted with the appointment of the nonprofit. I've had a number of kind of one-off conversations with many of you, and there's been a couple trains of thought that go along the lines of, well, those members of the ad hoc property committee who've been so vested and so deep into this process would make good members of the implementation committee, and I'm sure that's true. That being said, I get a sense that the township doesn't necessarily want to dissolve the ad hoc property committee, because there are other properties, township properties, that need this same type of analysis and review and recommendations. So there's a bit of a question in the air that it's my understanding, and Suzanne, correct any and all of this. It's my understanding that those kinds of decisions about the implementation committee and perhaps the future role of the ad hoc property committee should be decided by the new board of supervisors that gets seated in January, because we had elections this year. There will be a new supervisor in place. That's really a function of the 2024 supervisor board. So the point of this conversation is not to try to resolve this, but to try to just kind of put it out there, get any clarification, Suzanne, if you want to offer any, and to have the members of this committee think about their future role. If you want to stay on the ad hoc committee into 2024, new assignments I'm sure will be available. Or if you want to transition away or transition into potentially a implementation committee, if that is developed, those are all things that are kind of in the air that to be addressed in early 24. Suzanne, did I put that in the right context? Correct me anywhere I need it.
No, I think you got it exactly right. You know, the board is undertaking some steps so that when January rolls around, we'll hopefully be able to move forward relatively quickly, and keep the momentum going. And that's basically where we are right now.
Okay. Now, we are going to have Katie just sent out today the schedule for committee meetings in January and February. The ad hoc committee January meeting is slated as January 11th. I propose we have that meeting, and under the presumption that the ad hoc committee is to continue per the pleasure of the Board of Supervisors. That would be the meeting where we'd have an election of officers. And of course, as a volunteer committee, if anyone wants to, move on or not make the commitment for 2024, that's up to them. I want to just say that as we all think about that, I will take my name out of running as an officer for the ad hoc committee meeting. I'm happy to serve on it, but not in a leadership role. So that January meeting will be a place where we can discuss the organization of the committee and membership of the committee. And with that committee resolution calls for certain specific expertise to be on the committee. It calls for one member from the HARP to be on the committee. It calls for 2 members that have finance or finance-related professional expertise. And I'm going by memory. And there was one member that is a real estate broker or the like, something to that effect. For example, Jim Scott filled that role for us in the past as a real estate attorney. So there are some there were 2 at-large memberships. So there's some specification to membership of the ad hoc committee, and those are things that I think everyone should just think about over the holidays as we take a pause and be ready to come back with some clear thinking by January 11. Any comments along all of those lines?
Just to add to it, sorry, whoever I interrupted. Obviously there with the new board, the first meeting in January is on a Tuesday night, not the usual Wednesday night. The newly elected supervisor will be sworn in, and the re-elected supervisor will be re-sworn in. And then the board will be reconstituted. So, we'll play musical chairs in terms of what our roles are. With that, the liaison to this committee is likely to change as well. So, it could be that first week brings a lot of change and then direction as we move forward. So I think thinking about how high you want to keep your hand raised for next year is important so that we can, like I said, keep the momentum going.
Suzanne, do you think the Board of Supervisors would want a liaison both to the implementation committee and to the ad hoc property committee if they continue that? Do you think it's necessary to do both, or are you going to give some thought to that?
Yeah, it is something we're talking about, including that, hyper-technically, when we look at the resolution that I think I drafted, I have no memory anymore. The deprivation of oxygen is killing me. Um, at the very least, we probably need some kind of act to extend the ad hoc. So I guess part of what we have to figure out is, what makes sense to move forward. So
Yeah,
you're
in
right.
in that ad hoc, the resolution that formed the ad hoc, there was not necessarily kind of an end to that. There wasn't an automatic sunset, but it also did call out that there would be two liaisons to the ad hoc committee. Now, that might have been driven by some, political desire of at the time, but it hasn't always been. It obviously it hasn't been practiced. So things like that could probably use some cleaning up.
Yeah, the thought there was that because we added a committee mid-year, we already had assignments that the person who would be the primary liaison could have support when they couldn't be available.
Okay.
Since
Okay.
Dennis,
All right.
do you remember what other properties were under the umbrella of the ad hoc committee? I mean, I know Slack House over on the golf course was. What else was there?
So we were very, very broad with the use of properties, right? And we know that the township owns a number of them, including, the caretaker house at 5 Mile Woods. So I don't have them all, like, I don't think we listed them out in the resolution, but we
No,
do
you did
a
not.
listing of them. Jim, I don't know if that's on the site or if you want to get something to Joe so he could see what else there is, whatever makes the most sense.
Yeah, I mean, I have the resolution does not list them out. The resolution does cite the first assignment, which was the Patterson Farm Slack House combination evaluation. I forget the terminology that was used, but and those recommendations, this committee made those recommendations in March of 22. And that's what led then to the second assignment, which was this master plan. But yeah, what other properties the Board of Supervisors may choose to want to dig into is obviously up to them. But I think an ad hoc property was kind of intended to be able to address any township owned property.
And I could send a list of those properties that I think the board was kind of concerned with properties that had buildings on them and the utilization of them, especially vacant buildings. And I could send that list around to Joe and whoever else may want it.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
And for the implementation committee, are we all donning our paintbrushes and hammers and screwdrivers, or have you thought through what the responsibilities of that committee would be?
So again, I'm just one supervisor, but we've struggled in the past because of the condition of the properties. And I'll go for the easy one, the presence of lead paint on an active farm, right? Even if you watch this old house anymore, they don't just bring out their scrapers. When they have lead paint, they put all sorts of shielding up. So we got to do some professional work before we can have a Tom Sawyer type moment there. And again, that has to be thoughtfully driven, and that's the intent of the board.
So, but in serious, when you would look for the implementation committee to identify potential service providers who would be able to implement the plan and then maybe go through the bidding process?
So right now we have asked the solicitor to identify potential 5013Cs that could help lead or the creation of one. We haven't had a chance to go through that yet, so that's, I'm going to say, step one. As you know, we've been pretty busy with other things, and that's part of the problem, of being on the board. Right? There's just so much stuff at all times. So, and again, there's been a pause, right? We don't want to make decisions without the new supervisor, in part because, it's not nice, and in part because one of the other weird things that happens when there's a new board is they have a right to change certain decisions that the old board made. So we don't want to go too far forward and then be in a situation where potentially, decisions get unmade. We want to make sure everybody, or at least most people, majority, agrees with the trajectory of where we're going.
But Joe, the implementation committee being a group of volunteer residents, I think at least in my mind, they're more involved in the soft side of implementation. I mean, obviously Jim and the township are in good position to put out, RFPs and select bidders for paint and driveways or whatever the work might be. It's more the kind of the soft guiding elements around that, as well as the nonprofit management, which is not a kind of contractor let's treat lead paint kind of decision. So that was the thinking, at least. And I do think it's important, Suzanne, that the supervisors early on make the decision on creating an implementation committee, yes or no. That's more important than what's the next assignment for ad hoc or something else, because I think the membership of that will obviously cross over with ad hoc, and we may have members that want to be part of implementation and not part of ad hoc, or vice versa, and so that I think that's kind of the first decision in my mind that would be helpful.
Understood.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? I would ask, is there any other business that anyone wants to bring up? And also serve notice to the public, any members of the public who want to call in and offer some public comment, that they can start dialing now, because I know in the past there's been delays. So any other business, Joe?
I just wanted to report back to the committee that Helen Ines and I had a call with the Pennsylvania State Historic Preservation Office regarding the nomination of the farm to the National Register. We discussed several different strategies. Their basic statement was, in the end state, what matters is that the farm is on the register, and we'll figure out how to get it there in the most efficient process. So what Helen and I are doing right now is we're pulling together some documentation. She's done a lot of writing about the historical significance of the property and the lineage of ownership of the farms. And I've been pulling together some of the work that Souther Drury has in terms of photos and site plans and things like that.
Good.
And we'll submit that, and we'll have a call with them and with the SHPO's office, and then figure out what the strategy is in terms of how to get it listed. So we're well on that process.
Great, good step. And to be clear, you're sending that to the state to help figure out the strategy for submission. You're not making a submission.
No, I mean, we'll get the determination of eligibility, right? Update.
Right.
And that'll be what we submit will be sufficient for that. But yeah,
Okay.
We'll come back with a strategy for the submission. And then I think, Jim, one of the things is, getting it listed on the National Register is, one piece, but then, the whole idea of, is it its own historic district? Do we extend Edgewood? And what does that mean from a zoning and overlay point of view?
Right. Okay.
So, Joe, where does the Historic Commission stand on that? You were going to develop a kind of a summary of what the options were in terms of the historic area,
Well, what we had said was we would talk to the SHPO around whether we should submit Patterson Farm alone, or whether we should extend Edgewood Village to the Edgewood Village registration to also include Patterson Farm. We don't have a definitive answer on that yet, but SHPO's basic comment was whatever's the most efficient process, because you end up in the same place either way. You have the farm on the register. So, but they asked us to submit our justification and documentation, and based on that, we'll have another call with them, and they'll make their recommendation in terms of how to do it.
And Jennifer, in terms of the trade-off that you see there between making Patterson Farm part of Edgewood Village, extending that HARP as a single unit versus separate, do you see strong pros or cons there?
I think that if it ends up being an extension of the historic district as it stands now, we'll have all the governance in place. If it's decided that it should be its own freestanding National Register property, the township will probably want to establish governance for it as well, and that may just simply be amending the historic ordinance that the HARB is run under, so that it now will include another property in its purview. So that would just be some legal work to amend the ordinance.
And Jennifer, SHPO told us that there are two separate decisions. They said even if we should submit Patterson Farm and get its own registry separate to Edgewood, we could still make the zoning decision to increase the overlay district to include the farm. And
Right.
Right.
But so
jurisdiction of the HARP.
Yeah. And to do that, it's just a little bit of a legal fee for the township to do that. If
I
it's
understand, right.
Yeah.
As opposed to if it just fits under it, it automatically extends, you're saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dennis,
Yes.
if I may, as a long member of the HARB, I could at least go back to some of the initial discussions that were held, and some of which include the justification behind going for historic district, which ends up being more of a zoning regulation type thing than anything else. So in terms of governance, that's what was necessary. If it gets expanded to the farm, that's one thing or another. It doesn't really matter that much. It'll still be required to have something of a designation in order to be part of that, but not necessarily the same kind of designation as the other houses that were in the historic district that were individually registered on the National Register. So as Jennifer was saying, it's a point of governance, and I can't recall having any other municipalities in this part of Pennsylvania that have two historic architectural review boards. So most likely, one way or another, if it's included as part of the district, which is a zoning thing, or if it's a separate registration that requires under the CLG HARB to administer the architectural renovations, etc. It'll most likely not be too much of a difference in terms of how they apply. So I that might be a little bit circuitous, but it gets back to the point that Jennifer was making, but hopefully it gives you a little background on how that came to be. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Any other anything else on that topic or any other business? Fred, were you raising your hand or no?
So just for purposes of logistics, we should notify Katie that the January 11th and February 8th meetings are agreeable to us. So at the present time.
Agree. I mean, that this cadence has worked, and I see no reason to change it. So I can respond to her email of earlier today. I just didn't have a chance to. Does anyone on the call today have a particular issue with January 11? Because we do want to have an election of officers and that kind of discussion.
No, I don't.
Okay, I hear none. All right, that's good.
Yeah.
Erica, our Zoom manager, is there any comments from the public?
There's no public comment.
No public comment. Okay. Well, if that's the case, I would like to once again thank this committee and our extended committee of stakeholders, Jennifer, Jim, everyone that's been so active in this project. It was a time consumer, but I think we've done something that'll be very positive for this community, and I can confidently say that since the township bought the Patterson Farm in 1998, I think its future has never been brighter. And there's a vision. I think I know everyone on this call believes it can be achieved. It won't be a straight line. It'll be a lot of curves and bumps in the road. But things that are worthwhile usually happen that way. So thank you for all the work in 2023, and have a great holiday season and a break from whatever you want to take a break from. And with that, any other comments from the committee?
Yeah, just a brief comment for me, and thank you for your leadership, Dennis. Thank you very much for your leadership, Dennis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I second that, and also thanks to Jennifer and Addison Young for their support, and thanks to Seiler Drury for the efforts that they put forth this whole year.
Yeah.
So,
yep, a true collaboration. Really was. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn for 2023?
So moved.
So moved. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
I
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
happy
Good night.
holidays.
Happy holidays.